Welcome back to The Specialist, everybody. I've got a great episode of Surviving the Fandom here. You may know her from Instagram or TikTok or wherever. I have Jessica Steinrock, the intimacy coordinator herself, the woman who I didn't even know intimacy coordination was a thing. And then she popped up on my For You page, and little did I know she was also a Survivor fan. Jessica, thank you so much for coming on.
Oh, I'm so excited. I love Survivor. I love talking about Survivor. I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go. Well, I love to start off kind of all of these podcasts with kind of getting an idea of what got you into the show. Like, what was the first season you watched? Have you been a day one watcher? Like, what drew you to the show?
You know, I love television, and I'm actually a relatively new Survivor viewer, because to be honest, I was getting clips of it on TikTok, and I was like, this show looks like I would like it. And I watch a lot of television, or at least I used to before I became a parent. But like I was like a binge watcher too, and I'm like, man, they're like 40 plus seasons. I'm like, this is a show that will keep me occupied. And sometimes I do like data entry stuff for work, and so I'm like, okay, I like having a show on. I'm like, this is good. I'm like, I'm gonna become a Survivor fan. And when I start something, I start from the beginning. So I was like season 1 Borneo all the way through, and I think I completed the first 40 seasons in like 3.5 months. Like,
that is impressive.
When I like something, it's just like all I do. I get so obsessed with it, and like I can't not just like keep going to the next one. But this was also while I was pregnant. I was getting really into this, so this carried me through like a good chunk of my pregnancy. Was just like massive Survivor, just watching it all. And honestly, I would tell people to start at the very beginning, because there's so much like lore that really stacks up, that I was really glad that I knew, even though there were certain earlier seasons that like weren't my favorite. So
yeah, it's always one of those things. I feel like when people ask me like, how do you recommend to start? Like, the first season I watched was season 15. It was China. That's what Ryan showed me, just to kind of get me hooked, because I was very much on the fence. And I thought that was a great way to start. But like, it's so important that you know what you're watching, and so to like really kind of build that foundation, I think it's great. But if I recommend like my teenage cousins, when we were watching, I was like, yeah, we're not starting with Borneo in this one. Let's start with the what's the faster pace one. I need to get them into it. But it's so interesting that you said that you watched this while you were, during your pregnancy.
Yeah.
Because I've heard a lot of people, I mean, even Star, who was on Survivor herself, said that when she was had a newborn, Survivor, that's what she did. She watched Survivor, and she just kind of like she was able to kind of watch everything, and that's why she even applied to the show. Is there something that it's just like there's a lot of it where that's why people are drawn to it, in this kind of like the changing of your life that kind of thing, or is it just because it's just such an interesting TV show that draws, I feel like, new parents to the show?
I mean, I think that the quantity of it was a huge piece for me. Like, knowing that there was just a ton was very much like, okay, if I start this, then I don't have to ever ask the question of what am I going to watch today for a really long time. And I tend to, especially in TV show land, like I can watch lots and lots of stuff. But I think one of the challenges is that in a lot of other TV shows, it gets old and it gets stale, right? And like, 10, 15 seasons of something, especially like, written shows, sometimes you're like, okay, can the plot change a little bit? Like, these characters, do we need 15 seasons of this one show? But Survivor, it's, I mean, the game mechanics change and all that, but that's not why it's so interesting. It's the people, right? You could play the exact same game without changing anything, and it would be fascinating every single time, because the way the people interact with each other, like I as an intimacy coordinator, I look at people and building trust, and how like that happens, and how social alliances form, and who's on the outside and who's on the inside, and who's willing to flip and who isn't. And that's just different every single time. And like, for me, pregnancy, especially towards the end, was just a lot of sitting down, and like, it was really nice to just be able to like have something I could, have on. I didn't need to think about it, but it was still really interesting. And knowing too that like there's returning player seasons, I also was like, okay, even if I don't know what this season is, I'm like, I got to pay attention, because some of this stuff might come back later. So it always felt like a reward to invest in each season.
I really like the way that you said that. And something else I talked to honestly some other people who got into it during pregnancy or when they were a first time parent, and they also brought up the fact that like decision fatigue is very real in your day to day life, but
Yeah.
especially now that when you have to make decisions for another being,
Yep.
it can obviously compound. It makes it you have way more decisions, and so having that one thing where you kind of needed not necessarily a distraction, but a way to uh watch something, enjoy, escape, but then you, like you said, you don't have to really think about that choice up until 50 seasons in, right? Like that's a
Well,
lot.
now
And
I'm
then
on
if you
Australian Survivor, so like I've got a
exactly
whole new slew of seasons to watch. So I'm like, great.
exactly. So you're in it for the long haul.
Yeah.
For I do want to talk about your job because I do think that is something that not a lot of people. I think it's maybe bigger now. And people are more aware of it now. But for those who don't know, what is an intimacy coordinator?
Okay, so an intimacy coordinator, this is a great one to talk at weddings and things like that where people don't know me. You got to really suss out how to describe my job. But essentially, any of the like sex scenes or nudity scenes that you're seeing on television are now choreographed, coordinated, specialized in, and there is a person who often operates a little bit like a stunt coordinator, which is a job people are maybe a little bit more familiar with. So a stunt coordinator helps with the illusion of people punching. They help make sure everybody's in the right spot, that the camera's seeing what they need to see. They do coordination with costumes, with the makeup department, with the stunt team, etc. It's kind of like that role, but for these sex scenes and nudity scenes. So we are there to make sure that actors have their boundaries respected, that we are working consensually on set, but we're also there to help choreograph the scene, make it look really good for camera, make sure that everything is playing and telling the story we want it to tell, and otherwise just coordinating all of the things that go into an intimate scene, hence the title Intimacy Coordinator.
I think it's so interesting and very, like I said, I didn't really realize that this was even a thing that was happening
It's
until I
super
saw
new.
you. It's
Yeah.
yeah, until I saw your videos on TikTok and on Instagram, and I feel like I've learned so much. And actually, a couple of days ago, I had a casting director on the podcast, Carly Famalant, who obviously casting is very
Hmm.
it's people know what that is, right?
Yeah.
But it was really interesting talking to her about Survivor because obviously you come from a production lens and similar to
Mhm.
you, like, you work on movies and scripted TV shows and things like that. And so does that affect the way you watch the show because you kind of know how scripted television is made? Or are you kind of able to shut your brain off and really kind of enjoy it and you don't kind of go at it as a producer lens or, a coordinator lens?
Actually, I think that you've really touched on a point of one of the reasons why I like Survivor so much is because all scripted television, like I have such a hard time disassociating from it, right? And being able to just like watch the show, especially if there's a sex scene in it, right? I feel like Heated Rivalry is the thing that everyone's talking about right now, which is an amazing show. And I loved it, but I also felt like I couldn't just watch it because I'm watching it from a content perspective. I'm watching it from my job perspective. I'm watching it because I know who the intimacy coordinator is and I'm so excited for them, and then I'm watching the scene and I'm like, oh, well, would I do that position or what do I think they're wearing or is this reading or not reading? And so I feel like it's so difficult to like detach my brain. And my husband works in stunts and fights. He does more like live performance. So we're very like kiss kill kind of team.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but like similar to him, when we're watching a fight scene or we're watching, like he also has a really hard time disassociating from it. So like we have to really be in the mood to watch something, especially if it's got high action or high intimacy in it. But Survivor, being non-scripted, is just like so not my world. But I understand the mechanics of television, and so like I can imagine where all the cameras are and like
Yeah.
how big a production this is. Like, but that to me actually just adds to the level of interest without making it feel like work to me. And so like Survivor is just like watching humans be humans.
Yeah.
And that to me is just really, really interesting because it doesn't feel like work. And so it feels like an area of the entertainment industry that I can still keep for my own,
Yeah. Yeah, and that's something so like obviously we both make content. You make content around your job, I make content around Survivor. And the big thing that how, that when I approach the show because I am a fan first, and I really want to be a fan of the show and I don't really necessarily want to be like a reporter or whatever else. Like I want to enjoy
Yeah.
the show as a fan. And you really have to find, your things to be able to kind of stay a fan. And obviously it's so different. Scripted versus non-scripted is so
Yeah.
different. But for me, I'm like the moment I can't enjoy the show anymore and it feels like a job, I feel like I'm going to have to kind of take a step back because
Yeah.
it having something that is like it reminds you of your job or it feels like a job, it just then feels like a slog. Like you're not, and it's just so much. The show is so much fun, and it is so much fun watching humans be humans. And I think that that's something that's like I say this all the time. I think if anybody, you sit down anybody and you say
Yeah.
watch Survivor, I think that 98% of the population would enjoy this show.
Oh
Because
yeah.
there's like something for everybody. What is your favorite part about, the show? Do you love, the human interactions? Do you love the challenges? Or is it like the game theory of it all? What's the most intriguing part of the show for you?
I love the strategy. Like I love the confessionals where you really get to see the person like say, okay, here's my plan, or I think they're gonna flip, or I don't think they're gonna flip. And I do also think about it from an editing perspective. So I am really curious about like, okay, well, what's the story that they're trying to tell from this edit? And like how are they trying to get the audience to think one way, or where are they gonna pivot? Or so I do like the editing of all of
Mhm.
it, which is also I'm a Bachelor fan as well. And so like, but I think about it from like I like Bachelor from
Mhm.
an editing perspective, and I think the stories that they're trying to tell and how they tell it through the editing is really fascinating. But so like that perspective, but then for me, like of the players, it is this like this strategy. It is how they are thinking about the coalition building and the relationships and how they see those maybe as different, that like right, they might have a better relationship with this person, they would rather go out to breakfast with this person, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to vote together because there's a different like coalition voting block building strategy that like I think oftentimes you hear people say, well, I have a better relationship with them, but like relationship can be so different. Is it I
Mhm.
just trust that they're going to vote the way I think even though I don't really want to get coffee with them, or is it I have a better relationship with them because we both have cats and we love cats, or like that kind of thing. And so like it's that strategy piece to it, when they flip, when they don't flip. I don't super care that much for idols or advantages, though I think that they add interest to the game, but it's like how they end up using the advantage or not using the advantage based off of what they think other people are going to do. I find that component so fascinating.
Yeah, I love, it is something else that you do, which is very exciting, or you've started doing is you created a game, a workout game, which I really
Yeah.
love. I think it's so fun, but it's like I feel like Survivor fans are people who just love playing, right? Not
Yeah.
everybody, obviously, but I feel like people like to break things down and look at things, and I think that bringing that kind of whimsy might not be the right word for Survivor. I don't know that Survivor is the most whimsical thing, but like playing a game is really
Yeah. It's a
such a
puzzle.
it's a puzzle, exactly. And I think that a lot of people are really intrigued by that. And I love that you are bringing this kind of like game kind of thing to other parts of your life. Is that something that you just enjoy? You just like it? Are you a board game person as well?
Wildly, I love to gamify things, but I don't like complex games, if that makes
Okay.
sense. Which is so like this side project that I've got going on right now is fitness adventure, and it literally was me just sitting in my car talking to my husband being like, I need to motivate myself to work out, and we had just started playing D&D. And
Mhm.
like similar, D&D is a game that you can have some strategy when it comes to like battles and things, but the other half of it is really just like improving with your friends and like storytelling and like puzzle solving. And so like that's the kind of game that I really like, as opposed to like I've never been a big Monopoly fan. I've never really been like what's the Risk or any of those
Yeah.
other like really long like games.
Yeah.
um I've got a little bit not enough attention span for that kind of stuff. I love my games in like 30-minute or less increments.
I'm
uh
I'm very similar to that.
yeah.
I can do maybe an hour tops, Risk has never been a game that I'm like, yeah, let's play
Right.
Risk.
I'm like, if I can't drink and play, then it's not really a game.
Yeah.
And it's not that
That's
I
so
have to
real.
drink while playing, but like that's the level of like complexity is I need to be able to have a couple beers and be like, okay, great, I can still,
Yep.
goof around. But I don't take it too seriously. But like the idea of gamification of like trying to gamify your habits or gamify your goals or gamify, any of that kind of stuff. If I can get a sticker on a chart or that kind of thing is just it's dopamine for my brain in so
Yep.
many ways.
I love it. And I love that. I just feel like, because since I started watching Survivor, I've gotten to know a lot of people who also love the show. And I feel like I see a lot of similarities of people who, like maybe necessarily they like sports, but they don't like it as much as, some other like sports people, or who have like an artistic background, but maybe aren't, working in the arts anymore, but who really enjoy that kind of, expression, but then also people who love to play games. And I feel like Survivor is kind of this weird, like, ball of like, so again, like I said, so many people could find so many different interests because you've got the challenge and the challenges, so that's kind of like the sporting of it all. If you like The Bachelor, because that's actually why I started watching. I was watching
really?
The Bachelor. I used to be a really big Bachelor fan, and my boyfriend basically was like, okay, she watches The Bachelor, she watches reality TV, I can show her this. And I was like, ugh, I don't know if I want to watch this. And then I became obsessed with it. But I think that, one thing, and you brought this up, that the people really is just how people work. And I think that you do the same season over and over again with different casts, and a different thing is going to happen. How do you feel like, since you're a relatively newer fan, you watched it so quickly over a short period of time, how do you feel like the casting has changed or affected the show, over the span of time?
Yeah. I mean, I wonder how much, because I was talking about this with my husband, because I feel like the newer casts are all just feel younger. And maybe that's also just because editing, because of right. I think there's a lot of ways that like even if you took the average age of the cast and it hadn't gotten younger, like I think there's a lot of ways that like it could still feel younger. But like when I think about older versions of Survivor, I think about older players, and I think like. And maybe it's also because those players are now older now. And so, like, I don't know, there's a lot of reasons where I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a fact or not. But the newer players do feel greener, do feel like younger in age, do feel more like a social media savvy and those kinds of things. And in a way that I think does shift how they're playing the game or thinking about the game or thinking about screen time or storytelling or what plays on television, what doesn't, in a way that I think like older seasons haven't. So I mean, I think they've diverged a little bit away from this like casting question. But I do see a little bit of a shift in like in who the characters are that we are focusing on and where they kind of fit in this like, I don't know, tropey style of building out the cast. Like I think we're seeing fewer villains now, in a way that like we have like larger villain edits, which I think I can't tell if I love or not. I don't know. I feel like the person who gets the villain edit, it's like that's bad, and I feel really bad for them. And also, like I don't know, Sandra was so fun with the chaos she created, right? Like she's just a blast. And
I love Sandra. Yeah. She is one of my, we actually on the podcast last week, we did a draft of like the 50 biggest villains. And Sandra was my first round draft pick. And I was really happy that I got her on my team because she is just such a good, chaotic villain. And that's the thing that like I love in a villain is somebody who is chaotic and not just like mean. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
well, and I feel like now too, I think there's maybe just like even a larger awareness of a villain edit or chaos. And so like the chaos doesn't feel as organic sometimes as I think it once was. There is, so I think there's like even just an awareness of like how people are perceived or awareness of how a show could portray them, I think does affect how people play. And I think that's just a natural, unavoidable progression. But I also agree, like I'm not like a Russell villain fan. Like the people who are just mean, not a fan. People who are willing to cause chaos, love. People who are just like jerks, Not about it.
Not a huge fan of that. Yeah, no, I'm exactly the same. But I think that you bring up a really interesting point because we are like the world now is just so connected, right? In
Yeah.
2000, we were connected in 2000, but there is a different kind of connection that we have now. Everything is right here in our fingertips, like
Mhm.
and you can, back in the day, I probably wouldn't even know what my high school like acquaintances were doing, and yet I see them on my feed all this time. I feel like I still know
Yeah.
them, even though I haven't talked to them in 20 plus years. And I do think that social media has affected how people play the game because it's going to be hard when you go on the show.
Yeah.
There's no way that it's going to be easy because everyone is going to have an opinion on you. People see you as a character, and it's never been easy to go on the show. I don't know if you've read Parvati's book, but in her book, she talks about how people would come up to her and like yell at her and be like, "We love to hate you," and all that stuff. And now people are not only doing that in real life, but they're also doing that online.
Yeah.
And as somebody who is online, do you think that there's ever going to be a world where people aren't thinking about their online persona when they play the game, or do you think that this is just now a part of the show?
I think it's just a part of the show. I mean, like, I wish it wasn't, but I also, like, I think that that's like, this is the world we live in, and, I think part of it is that this is a gateway for many folks to have a financial income and a financial stream, and, like, having attention is a commodity. I know this, I'm on the internet.
Yeah.
Right, and I think that there's good to be done with it, right? It's not a moral judgment. I think it's actually quite morally neutral, but I think it does really impact how people play the game, the kind of character they want to be, how they navigate space. Like, I think there's a different monitor that's sitting in people's brains now than probably was back in Borneo. Although, maybe it's, I think there probably was still a monitor, but it's probably a different monitor. And like the intentions for going onto the show, I think are also probably a little bit different now, because in the back in the day, wow, my old, back in the day, going on the show didn't mean an automatic increase in attention in some way or another, right? Like, in a way that now any player that goes on there is going to get an automatic increase in social media followings. And that is something that can be capitalized and launched on. So it just, again, morally neutral, but it does affect things.
Yeah. Do you think we'll ever get somebody on the show like a Russell, for example, or even like a Corinne, maybe? Because Corinne was somebody else on the show who, like, I think about a lot, where she was quippy and kind of mean. And she's still her same self. Like, her online persona is still very in line and on par with how she was on the show. And that is obviously that's how she's doing it. That's her choice. But do you think that we're going to get anybody like that, because you just kind of know the backlash that that might be coming for you when the show is airing, or do you think that we're going to get people who just like don't care, or maybe who don't have social media and are just willing to kind of do whatever?
I think that authenticity is the thing that people love. Right. And so I think, if someone were going to ask me, Jessica, how do I make the most of my, experience going on Survivor and then turning it into attention? I would say be as authentic as possible. If you are quippy and sassy and snarky and causing chaos, like, do it, right? Like, that's because when you are authentic and when that authenticity feels right, it doesn't matter if people perceive you as mean, or like, there's plenty of popular mean girls on the internet, right? There's plenty of people who are mean or grumpy or angry or all sorts of things. But it's I think it's the authenticity that we connect to, right? Like, this feels, I think some of the reasons why I don't like some of the villain players like Russell is because that also feels authentic. And I'm like, ooh, like, that's not,
Yeah.
I don't feel like you're playing necessarily a card. I'm like, oh, I feel like that's a little too close to home for me. Versus, other players where I'm like, oh, like, would I be friends with you? Probably not, but man, are you intriguing to watch on television.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. And I'm pretty sure, even I asked that question, and I'm pretty sure Russell actually won the fan favorite award for either Samoa or Heroes versus Villains. Like, he was beloved by a lot of people, and still to this day there are people who will get in everybody's comments and being like, oh, yeah, Russell lives rent free in her head or their head, or they, people love to. He is somebody who is either loved because they hate them and they love to hate them, or it's just they just hate him, whatever it is.
I mean, attention is the commodity, right? And he's good at getting attention.
Exactly. I think that's a really good point. And I think it's just like, I just find that interesting because we really don't have, I think the biggest complaint about villains now is that people saying we don't have it. And I've always viewed it as I feel like we're getting maybe a more well rounded edit
Yeah.
of people. So, like, maybe, you know, Jesse is somebody who I think of as a villain because he made the villainous move. And I think if he had been in season 5 or season 15, and made that same move and has been somebody who was he was an ex gang member.
Yeah.
I think his edit probably would have been a little bit less favorable than we saw. And I think that he would be maybe more cut and dry villain back in the day. But I
Yeah.
also totally see how we really haven't had a Randy Bailey or a Corinne or, you know, somebody who is just willing to just say whatever. And we have not had that in quite some time. And do you think that we're like missing that? Do you think that that really truly is like an area that we're missing and we need it? Or do you feel like we're pretty okay with how the casting has been going?
You know, and I think about the one that comes to mind. Oh, I forget his name. He was just on a recent season, but he was doing that like shoe bandit thing.
Oh, Jake. Was that
Jake,
Jake?
yes.
Yeah.
Was that was like the most recent? That was 49, right? Or
That
was
was
that
49. Yeah, that was
Yeah,
49. That was
okay.
49.
You know, and like and I liked Jake as a character. I thought it was fine. The snake thing was horrifying and terrifying and I was like, "Oh no." But I was like this shoe bandit thing feels very contrived
Mhm.
and it didn't feel particularly authentic to him. And again, that's also edits, right? Who knows?
Yeah, right.
But when I think about like the shoe bandit reminds me of speaking of Sandra, like Sandra grabbing Russell's hat and throwing it in the fire, or like taking the last bit of jelly, or those kinds of things that are like not as pre-planned, I guess.
Mhm.
And so like that to me is like the slight difference in like how villains of the past, I guess, um it felt a little bit more of that authenticity of like, oh, this
Mhm.
person's just trying to like take an opportunity and go with it versus I felt like the shoe bandit was like a little bit premeditated from like a, you know, before I even got to the island thing.
Mhm.
Um and so like I think that's maybe this thing I'm trying to get at is this like idea of like the premeditated of who I'm going to be on the island.
Mhm.
That feels like it's a little bit more prominent now. Overall, I really quite like the casting. I think, you know, I would be interested in um seeing I don't know, some more like really different personalities. It does feel like there's a lot
Mhm.
of people who are like trying to really get along, which again, I love. And maybe that's a matter of like us being connected more as a society. But like,
Mhm.
I felt like there was so, so many like completely different walks of life. And I would love to see a little bit more of that.
Yeah.
But I'm not upset about it, right? Like it's like a 2 on my priority scale.
Yeah. I think that you bringing up the shoe bandit is a really good comparison because that is a moment where I thought it was kind of fun, but also it just felt like it almost felt like it was like a check on a list of like,
Yeah.
all right, this is something that might give me screen time or this might whatever. Whereas I think you're right. A great comparison is, you know, Sandra burning Russell's hat or Russell burning Russell burned the socks, I think, in Samoa.
Uh-huh.
And that just felt like something that like, you know, doing something because in the moment it felt like the right thing, not because this was something that needed to be hit.
Right.
And I think that there is, you know, obviously Survivor's been on the show on TV for 26 years, right? People are going to think about how the edit will portray them. That will be something. It's just gonna happen. And yet I do think that it does feel a little bit more prevalent. As a newer fan who again watched everything so quickly, I would love to get your perspective on like things that were added or maybe taken away in the new era that you feel really changed the show for you, maybe in a good way or a negative way. Do you have anything that, you know, because they did so many changes, right? You know,
Yeah.
the shot in the dark, the 26 days, the 3 tribes. Like, is there something that really stands out, positive or negative for you that during that time that change that made?
I mean, one thing I'm excited about is 50 is having the live finale. And the reason why, and I'm sure this has been talked about ad nauseum by many other people, but like, I do not like the tribe discussion right after they announce the winner when they are starved and, you know, these emaciated pizza champagne eaters, right? And I'm just like, oh, because I think something that is so valuable is the time away from the game to like reflect. And you also see emotions so high. Like, right, someone just found out that they didn't win $1 million and are now supposed to be like totally fine chatting it up with the, you know, and like, and I know that, you know, even in the live finale, they just found out that they didn't win the $1 million, but like they've had enough time to process through, okay, well, what if I don't? And what if I do? And how, what is it? Because emotions aren't as high, they've seen the edit. So they also are seeing what the fans are seeing. And I think we just genuinely get a better and deeper discussion that is a little bit more joyful, has a little bit more laughter. And I think Jeff has always done a really good job hosting that discussion. But so like that for me is something that like I know in COVID times that shift was made for many reasons, you know.
Yeah.
I started a company that was trying to teach people how to, you know, kiss on screen in COVID. So that was I know, it was a bad time to start a kissing company, let me tell you.
Oh my gosh.
So like I know all about like the changes you gotta make. But like that's something that I genuinely would like, am excited to see coming back, and to see that discussion get to have a little bit more time and space, and you know, so that to me feels
I think that's a really good thing to be brought up, because I think that that doesn't necessarily impact the game, but it does impact like the viewers, right? And it impacts the players, because I don't think that, like, number one, we don't get to hear from any of the pre-merge people, and I think that that is a really big loss, because I think that there are people, like, you think about like Sabaya's exit in season 45, where, you know, she was burning the wax in the fire and she was blindsided pre-merge, and we think about, and that was with Caleb and Emily, who go on and make this really big splash, because number one, it's Emily, and number two, Caleb doesn't the shot in the dark hits for him, right? But I think that that is a really big turning point in that season, because it was going to be Caleb that left, but Emily helped and saved, and then it ended up being Sabaya. And so that's something that I always go back to, where I'm really sad that we never got to hear from her and other people, not just Sabaya, but like, you know, that's a big loss, because the game isn't just the merge. The game happens the moment you step on that beach. And so everything impacts everything else. And so I really think that like that is something that we miss out on, because we miss out on everybody's perspective. And also, like, I feel like sometimes it gets a little bit more petty on the live reunion, because they see the edit, they see what people are saying in confessionals, and they're like, "Oh, you said that about me."
Well, and then they can bring that up too, right? Inside, because I'm like, I want to hear what so and so thought about so and so saying this, or like,
exactly,
you know.
And all we're getting now is drama on social media. I want to see it IRL. I want to see them I want to see them sitting down on stage, talking about it, confronting each other. In person,
with the premeditated quips, right? They're like, when I get on that stage, I'm gonna say this thing and it's gonna be a zinger. Like, I love that.
Same. I'm thinking about, like, you know, the Traders reunion. Are you watching the Traders?
I am. I'm behind on this particular season, but I had finished all of Survivor, and I had like 2 weeks left of pregnancy, and so I jumped right in on the Traders and watched all of the US, all of the UK. So I'm behind on this particular season because my TV watching days are fewer than they used to be. But
with the baby,
I am watching it.
The thing that is interesting, you know, with Traders is I'm seeing interviews of people being like, multiple people, not just one person, saying like, oh man, at the reunion, I'm gonna have some words for that person or whatever else. And I just am like, it is so much fun. It's a moment where I think everybody can air out the dirty laundry. We don't drag it out online for months, weeks, whatever.
Well, and that's not like the fun drama either. Like, I'm like, I don't want
it's not the fun drama.
I want like Boston Rob, Bob the drag queen drama, right? Like that's the level of drama. I mean, I want it fiery, but like at the end of the day, you're like, they're fine.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And that's what I think I love about Survivor fans is, like, you know, I love the drama of other TV shows, but I think a lot of people do watch this show and realize it is a game. And they kind of take that in stride, knowing that if you blindside my best friend, it's because it's in this game. Is there like a moment in Survivor that you really like love? Maybe it's a cutthroat moment, or you know, maybe it's Eric giving up the immunity necklace. Is there a moment that you're like, this is Survivor to me?
Oh, I mean, there's so many. I mean, like Parvati's double idol play in Heroes Villains lives rent free in my head. to this day, like I do love Sandra, and I'm a big fan of like the winner of Survivor is the winner of Survivor.
Mhm.
But like as a viewer, like I would have voted for Parvati in that season because I was like, she was incredible.
Yeah.
Parvati's one of my favorite players. I watched her also on Survivor versus the World. So I watched that one, and then I went back and started at season 1 of Survivor Australia. So I'm still in the middle of that one. I haven't seen all of them, but like, I thought she was phenomenal on
She was.
Australia versus the World. So that was pretty.
It was such a good season, and that was so much fun to watch Suri and Parvati play again.
I know. It was like I was like the duo that I like didn't know I needed, but I was like, man.
It was so good. It was so good. Speaking of Suri, who is there somebody like are you excited for season 50? Do you have a favorite going into it?
Yeah. Oh man, I've got so many. I'm so excited about it. I'm nervous about it because like some of the casting, I was like a little disappointed right when it came out, but then I've gotten over it. I think I've gotten over my feels. But I think honestly, I love Coach. Coach was like an acquired taste for me. I really hated him in the very first season, and now I'm like, he won me over. What a guy. So I mean, I'm excited to watch Coach play again. I mean, I love Suri, although I will say I loved her in Survivor versus the World, or Australia versus the World, which I was nervous about. But like Suri getting, idled out and like advantaged out and like that chaos of a tribal council, I was like, what a way to end a journey on Survivor. So I always get nervous when I see Suri's gonna play again because I'm like, I don't want an anticlimactic end to her Survivor story.
I get that. It's kind of risky. It could be nothing could really hurt Suri's Survivor legacy, but it could ding it a bit, like if she's like the first one voted out and it's a unanimous vote because they know that there's nothing that Suri can do. Like Suri is Suri, right? Like, which I understand. Like I get the game move, but I don't know. I don't want to see that.
Right. She was flawless in the Traitors too. I was like, I could not believe she even won because I was like, don't you all, I mean, clearly they didn't know who she was, but I was like, don't you all know who this person is? Like, I'm like, you need to get her out of the castle immediately.
Immediately. And I'm worried. I think I saw a preseason interview where Jenna said that Suri is her Tina. So back in All Stars, Jenna really wanted to get Tina and Ethan out because they were winners.
Yeah.
And that she was just like, the winners can't be here. They won for a reason. They need to go. And it was like her vendetta. She was going to get all the winners out. And she said in a preseason interview that Suri is her Tina. And I'm like very nervous for that because I don't want Suri to go. But I also think Suri went on record saying that it was one of her favorite seasons she's ever seen. Would she say that about a season she gets voted out unanimously, second out? I don't know. Yeah.
So I mean, I'm hopeful. But I get nervous about Suri. Like I'm never rooting for Suri to come back because I'm just like the risk reward always feels too high for me. Although I do love seeing Suri in other spaces.
But
so like
she's
Suri,
amazing.
Yeah, I was bummed that Jerry wasn't going to be on the whole Colby Jerry thing. I was like, oh.
Yeah, that one hurt. That one definitely hurt. She's the one that I was certain she was going to be on the show. Like I was like, if I were a betting woman, I would have bet a lot of money that she was going to be on. Good thing I'm not because I would have lost it. But that was, I really just was like shocked that she's not on it because what is this season with Colby without Jerry? Like it's just
right.
It's just I don't even know what that even feels like, what that would look like. I don't know. Are you excited? Is there anybody from the new era that you're excited to see back, or do you feel like the new era people were maybe brought back a little too soon, or are you okay with like a heavy new era cast?
I was really one of my favorite seasons ever was I think season 8. Is that All Stars? The very first All Stars? Yeah, okay, season 8. One of my all-time favorite seasons. I went in blind. I didn't know about the whole Boston Rob Amber thing. Like, so I really feel like I got to experience all of it fresh. And I was like, what? Because I also I stay away from spoilers when it comes to reality TV. And so like I then Googled and I was like, oh my gosh, they're married. Like they're still married, Anyway, so like I love an all-star cast and I was really hoping for a new era all-stars. Like I wanted that. So I don't think it's too soon to bring all-stars back, but like I wanted an all new era all-stars before then. And I think I would have, if I were casting for my own viewing pleasure, I would have not had it so new era heavy But that doesn't mean that I don't want to see all of those new era players. Like, I mean, Kyle and Camilla. I also really liked Joe. I feel like Joe gets a lot of like online hate, and I'm like, I liked Joe. I thought Joe was great. And like, who else? Jonathan, I think, was also really interesting as far as challenges went. Um, Savannah, I really quite liked.
Yeah.
I thought she's probably the closest to getting like almost a villain edit, right?
I would agree with that. Yeah, definitely. I would say more than most other players on this season or in the new era, I think.
But I think she kind of owns it. Like I really like her vibe. I like what she does. So I'm excited to see her play. And she was amazing at the challenges too. So like all the individual wins, I was like very impressed. So like I'm excited about them, but like I think some of the reasons why I'm so excited about Coach and Colby and Cirie is because I've had like 2 or 3 seasons to like really love them. And I wish I had like one more season to get like a little bit more in the weeds with some of the new era players before they're coming up against people who like, I'm afraid of like a post merge where it's like 80% new era and like 20%,
yeah, almost like, others. I mean, Winners at War. I don't remember the exact difference, but I remember that a lot of the old school and new school people, or a lot of the old school people were voted out really early on because, again, you have this like legacy, right? Like if you're a Boston Rob or an Amber or even Danny, like I could go on of these people who we've been talking about and harking back to best winner, and they dominated that, and then you're there playing a game with them. Yeah. Like playing with Kim Spradlin. I don't want to play next to Kim Spradlin. I know what she can do. Right, I'm going to get her out. And so I think that is the fear, is that these new era people don't have this baggage of being called the greatest to never win, or being the only person being brought back from season 1, or just being like Colby Donalds. You know what I mean? Right. You don't have that kind of baggage. And so it might be like easier to defeat them. Like, you don't want to sit next to Cirie at Final Trouble Council. Like,
no one's going to drag her with her. Like, that's not.
You're losing that. But sitting next to Charlie, you might be able to win that. Not no hate on Charlie. It's just like he has not had the same, like, even, and I do think that he's probably the one who people talk about being the most robbed. I would say
I'm a team Kenzie.
I'm
with you there.
I also was very happy Kenzie won. But like in the world, everyone was like, Charlie should have won. Charlie should have won.
Yeah.
If he is the one that people are thinking is like the most robbed player of the new era, there's no comparing him to Cirie. No. And so like, there's a world where you could defeat Charlie. I don't know that there's a world where you could defeat Cirie. So it's just hard. I think 48 should have been a new era All-Stars.
Yeah.
Do it. If we're really doing drop the 4, keep the 1. 48, it's season 8 was the All-Stars. Yeah. Really doing drop before you keep the 1, do a new era All-Stars at 48. It just makes sense.
Yeah, and then have another like 49 cast, and that's fine, and then do 50 as 50. No, I was with you that like I also like, I feel like it's been too long. Like I would like to have seen, like, I love, like, we're speaking of Charlie, I loved watching Charlie play. Like I think Kenzie won. Like I see why that happened, but like I mean, you can't deny it was incredible. The grip strength alone on the man, right? Like,
yes.
And I would have loved to see him play again. Like, and I wish, so I would have liked to get to know them a little bit earlier. And then in 50, they could have brought back like someone who didn't get cast on the All-Stars and someone who did get cast on the All-Stars, or I don't know. I think it could have been a little bit more of an even smattering, if you will.
Yes. I totally agree. Yeah, it feels very heavy new era. I mean, half the cast is new era, half the cast is from the last 9 seasons.
Yeah.
Which is kind of crazy, but
yeah. I mean, I'm so pumped about Mike White too. I'm like, gosh.
I'm so excited for Mike White. I'm so excited I feel like I honestly do feel like it's going to be a good season.
Yeah, I think so too.
We've had time at the beginning. I was like, I don't know if it's a very smart idea for them to release the cast that early, but I'm kind of happy they did, because I feel like we've had time to like sit with it.
Everybody's feelings are a little bit better.
Yeah, we were mad, and now we're not mad, and some people are still mad. Don't get me wrong, but majority of people have been able to simmer down, and we've regulated, and we realize, okay, it's a TV show, we're good, and then we can go and like enjoy the season. Do you have a winner pick for season 50?
No, I think they're going to be new era though. I really do.
Yeah.
I don't know who. I don't think it's going to be any one of the previous winners. I think Charlie could be a good. But for me, I'm like, who do I want to win? I don't even know if I know who I want to win. I mean, obviously Suri, right? But like, but I feel like even that at this point, like I kind of like Suri as a character. The Best That's Never Won, I think, is a great title.
Yep.
Like I genuinely do from a story arc perspective. I mean, she's missing the game winning $1,000,000, but like from the rest of her career and what she's been able to do with that title, I think it's really good.
I kind of agree. I feel like there is such a legacy of being the greatest player to never win. And it's almost, you think about, I think that there are some people on the season who I'm excited to see play again, but I think that we talk about them as being like a robbed player. And I feel like they just got lucky with like Chrissy, for example. Like for the longest time, I really believed that Chrissy was robbed of the win because of the fire making challenge.
Yeah.
And then I hear like stories of people who really played the game. I was like, I don't think that she was going to get the votes. I don't think that many people wanted to vote for her.
Yeah.
I think that they wanted to vote for some other people. And so I was like, oh, maybe she's not robbed, but she got really lucky that she had that fire making challenge to then be like, oh, I didn't win because Ben got there. And if Ben didn't get there, then maybe I would have been able to win. And I feel almost similarly to Suri, where Advantage Geddon, was Suri winning that season? I don't know that she was. Like maybe, but I think Advantage Geddon was a crazy thing to happen. And I feel like it really cemented that legacy of being like the greatest to never win, and you have to use all of these different things to get rid of her. And even then, people still think that she should have won. So I just find that very interesting about how like a turn of a thing that's like lucky turn of events can actually make your legacy kind of maybe not. Series is not bigger, but like almost like bigger than maybe it originally should have been.
I think her legacy is larger than life, in many ways. Like, although I say that, and then I remember her play on the Traitors, and I'm like, man, I mean, she's just good.
She is really good. She's really
just good. But yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. That like, there's a story that's larger than the person, and like, you also don't want to add chapters to that story that like might accidentally go against that narrative.
Yeah, it's Colby is somebody that comes to mind.
Yeah,
because Colby was this like larger than life character, and then every single time he played the show, he got worse.
Right.
Sorry, it's just
no,
the
he
truth.
Did.
He didn't necessarily place very badly in like every single one. Like he placed pretty okay, and all of them obviously came in second in Australia. But like every other time he's just like, wow, yeah, he's not winning this game. Like this is it's getting worse every time we do it. Yeah.
Like Ozzy's a very similar character that like, comes back, and I mean, he does decently, but like he makes the same mistakes every single time, and you're just like,
Yep. Yeah, exactly. I feel like I'm very interested to see how like the public reacts to 50. And this is something that I brought up in a couple of other podcasts about how more and more people are really watching the show, and people like you who are relatively new watchers who watched it all and who are super fans now. Do you think that 50 is going to bring in a new batch of viewers, or do you think that it's going to kind of stay stagnant and stay the same? Or do you think that like 50 and beyond, we've got an upwards trajectory of like viewership?
I would like to see more, right? I would like to see some people who haven't watched the show in a while kind of tune back in. I'm hopeful. I would like more Survivor in my life, not less. But I don't know. I think that the game has some work to do if they're gonna keep going past 50. And I'm curious to see where if they're gonna. I don't know. I'm speaking very vaguely, but like I think about Survivor in what I would call like my favorite chunks of time, and I'm not quite sure that this new version of Survivor is really like following the trajectory I want it to. And I'm wondering if season 50's responses do help shift the game into a new era. Ooh.
A newer era, the
newest era, right? Something like that. But like, I could see this as a catalyst to really re-energize the series, and I'm hopeful for that. But I'm not sure if I was a betting woman, I would bet on it.
Yeah, I'm hopeful for that too. I mean, I heard Rob Cesternino talk a little bit about how he thinks that 51 is really going to be the most important season that Survivor has ever had,
Right.
which I do agree with that,
Yeah.
which also makes me nervous.
I know.
But nervous and excited because I do think that Survivor is like, and I say this all the time, it's like pizza. Even when it's bad, it's good, you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, but how many people are like me who are going to be able to ignore the problems or be like, I know that I've had better pizza before, but at least I've got it
Yeah.
now. Or how many people are going to just be like, well, you know what? I could also just get a burger, like I could also just
Mhm.
order something completely different. And I don't know if that time will come. And I really hope it doesn't because I'm happy with it. But obviously a lot of people are not. But I just find that interesting to see kind of what the future of this show could be.
Yeah, I think right now because I'm watching Australian Survivor, it is a little bit interesting because I feel like I've gotten my good pizza back, right? Like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
like, oh, this is the stuff, man. They're out there for like 30 plus days, 55 for the first season or something like that was insane.
Yeah,
Um,
it's
it,
crazy.
it was almost too long, quite frankly, which I didn't think I would say. But I'm like, I feel like there's some. I think I'm on season 7 right now of Australian Survivor, but this is the meat of what I was really missing. So I feel like I'm getting like a real time comparison of watching right like 49 and
Yep.
like Australia season 4 or 5 at the same time, where I'm just like, oh, I really miss some of this stuff.
Yep.
And I also think that like I don't know, I'm really interested in the way that Jeff has changed as a host
Mhm.
because some of the earliest seasons, I think one of the things I loved is how he has handled some of really tense conversations ahead of their time, right? Conversations about race and gender and sexuality and those kinds of things that were again really ahead of their time and in ways that I was like, "You know what? I think that was really well handled. I think that was
Mhm.
really well handled from even a today's perspective." And I think right now I'm seeing a little bit of like Jeff having a thesis of what the show means and then being like, see, the thesis is correct, which isn't
Yeah.
as much of like the facilitation of the people as he used to do. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I think that I don't know if there's a world where there is a different host ever. But I think that could be really interesting. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love Jeff Probst, but like I do wonder if like 50 something seasons has like clouded a little bit that like objective lens that I felt like he used to be able to really
Mhm.
definitely navigate conversations with. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because you go back and you kind of watch and even like, the sassy Jeff compilations
Yeah,
of
yeah.
of like him just like yelling at players and stuff. He doesn't really do that as much anymore.
No, he
Which
uses the phrase like uh that's what Survivor is about, which to me is like he has this idea of what Survivor is about and then is pointing out things that prove,
yeah,
which is very different than what it because earlier on he was like, I don't know what Survivor is about. You tell me. But I think
yeah.
over 50 seasons, he's now gathered enough evidence to be like, oh, this is what Survivor's about. And now, anyway, so like it's a
Yeah,
subtle
it's
difference, but I think it's really important.
show don't tell is the
Yeah.
thing that I always harken back to with Jeff is like we don't need you to explain why Survivor is hard. We know that Survivor is hard. You can talk about it at the live reunion when you show us the amount of rice that they get or whatever. But when we're actually out there, when the people are out there and we're hearing them talk about it, I don't need to hear every single episode how hard this game is. I get it. I
Yeah.
know it. It's like just show me how hard it is.
Yeah.
Don't keep telling me how hard it is. And I think that we see that time and time again with him. And I really would he really kind of makes a point, and this is something that bugs me a bit, to separate himself from the criticisms and from the fan reaction because
Yeah.
I think that he doesn't want to seem like he is being reactive.
Sure. Sure.
And I get that, but I also think that there is something really important about listening to the people that you're making this show for is
Yeah.
for the fans. It's not for the people playing the game, right?
Right.
Let's be real. It's a show to make money. When somebody when somebody commented on my videos being like, this PR, I didn't realize this idol hunt was just a big PR stunt. I can't believe how far Survivor has fallen or whatever. And I went, yeah, Survivor had Reebok on the buff since
I
season
know.
1. I think the show has always been about making money, my guy. Okay.
I missed the car challenge, man. The curse of the car, that was my favorite.
Literally,
Oh,
my hot take is I think there or my not hot take, my theory of this season, I think the car reward is coming back this season.
I hope so. I love the car reward.
I've seen, I mean, there was an ad, a Boston Rob did an ad on Survivor's main Instagram feed with Toyota about how like it's a Survivor ad for this car. And I went, oh man, don't tease me if you're not gonna bring back the car reward.
Yeah.
Oh, I love a sponsored. I really do love a sponsored reward, though. I don't know why, but it's just usually because they're like kind of campy and it brings out really weird. Like, I love hearing everybody talk, say all of the nicest things you've ever heard about the Jack and Jill movie. When it's one of the worst movies ever made, and they're just forced to say all of these nice things about this movie, I think is the funniest thing ever.
Like, KFC is my favorite chicken I've ever had. I'm like, okay.
Okay, you guys are so ridiculous, but I kind of love it. I kind of like eat it up every single time.
Yeah, at the Applebee's. Oh, you know.
That whole Applebee's thing is also so funny because I talked to Liz about that and I was like, was that like, did you hand that up? And she was like, no, that's how I really feel about Applebee's. And I was like, and I love that we got that because we haven't had an Applebee's reward since season 46. Yeah. And I feel like their thought process was, yeah, we're not going to top that. Like Applebee's is like, yeah, we've reached the pinnacle of branding here. Liz having a meltdown over us we're not getting better than that. There's no content better than that. Oh my gosh. I hope we get branded stuff back for 50. And I think we will.
Yeah. And I like it when you're not trying to hide a sponsorship. Like, what was it? Was it like a Home Depot toolbox?
The toolbox. The Coca-Cola fridge.
Oh my God. It's so good.
The Charmin, I think it was a Charmin porta potty or something. So good. It's honestly
impeccable.
It's so ridiculous and so fun. And I think that, honestly, the reason why I feel like a lot of fans feel similar to us is because rewards have gotten stale and repetitive. Yeah. And, a sponsored reward, while it's very clearly sponsored and maybe Survivor is selling out, you can't sell out if you already sold it at the beginning. Let me just, I'll say that again. But I do think that it adds a little bit of intrigue because it's something that they wouldn't have done otherwise. Like, why would there just be randomly a Coca-Cola fridge in the middle of the jungle? Like, that's a really dumb reward, and we kind of love that. Yeah. And I think that it adds a little bit of different je ne sais quoi. I don't know, something good to it.
I'm like tired of hearing the phrase where good things happen.
Again, it's going back to the show, don't tell. Like, let me show me that it's good and prove to me that it's a good thing that 3 people are going to eat a rotisserie chicken with their hands. Prove to me that's actually a good thing, because I don't think it's that good. I think that's actually kind of a curse, if you will. Yeah. Like, are you really that hungry that's the only thing? I don't know. That's something I really want
when the
change.
Rewards were at camp, or sometimes you would see people being eaten in front of, or like there's like that. Maybe this was Australian. Sorry, I can't remember. But there was like a giant bed that got delivered, and it was like only these people can sleep in the bed, and like, like I also, and oh man, and the like adventure rewards, the like go swimming with the cool aqua animals, and like that stuff was also really cool. And I felt like, this is way back in like season 2, right? But like going to do some philanthropy in the local town. Like, I loved that stuff.
Yeah, I do too. I think that that's stuff that again, this goes back. I think that, you make the TV show for the viewers and listen to the things that we want, because the things that we are saying, we're not the first to say them. We are also not going to be the last to say them. Yeah. And it's, the things that the fans want are pretty clear. And obviously there are things that they're not going to be able to do because they're really cutting costs over there at CBS. And so,
everywhere is, right. That's the entertainment industry is just like on fire right now in every area.
Exactly. And so obviously there are things that we're probably not going to get. Like, we're probably not going to get 39 days back for a while. We're probably not going to get traveling to new places for a while. But why can't we get a silly fun reward? Why can't we get just something a little bit different? Because the things that we want aren't necessarily that difficult to do. Some of them are.
Also just like get rid of the sanctuary, like and then don't talk about it. Just like the reward is what the reward is. And then, and then that immediately stops the repetitiveness, because I'm like, I don't care about the sanctuary. There's nothing interesting about the sanctuary. Like,
what if the sanctuary was one time a season? It was like the car reward.
yeah,
And the sanctuary is like the best reward. It's food, you stay overnight,
yes,
you have like a spa reward, and it's one, and you call it the Survivor Sanctuary, and it's one time a season, and it's the one that everyone was like, I've heard this as the reward. I have to win. Like, I need this reward. You do it at Final 7 or something where there's still a good amount of people. You take 3 people go to the reward, 4 people or stay back at camp. But so is the Survivor Sanctuary can still stay a thing, and he can still say like where good things happen, but it's like a thing that he does once a season and we're all excited for it to happen. Like, that to me is good. Just why is the sanctuary this like every single episode? Make it a thing that people yearn for and want to go to, not just a place, you know? I could talk about. Go ahead. No,
I was gonna say, like, I was thinking about other, because again, I'm watching a lot of Australian, but like they have the ones where it's like the candy shop, and one at a time they go in and like absolutely wreak havoc over this like cake festival, and they're like sticking their hands in the cake, and like who got the nacho clue at the bottom of the pile of nachos, and like, and I think they've done that too with like, I think it was on Mike White's first season where there was like that spaghetti one. Anyway, like that kind of stuff. Like, I feel like we're missing some of the like ways that advantages have also showed up in rewards, and
Yeah. I always say, I think that a lot of things could be fixed. And this is not just for Survivor, but for also like scripted stuff. When it comes from a fandom that already exists, a lot of things could be fixed by having like a panel of 5 fans on set and be like, change that, do that different. Like, they're gonna hate that. Don't do that one. Like, I feel like a lot of things could be fixed with just having a panel of 5 fans out there in Fiji, or like they're given the storyboard or all of the ideas and stuff, and they go, don't do that. What are you guys doing?
I mean, I volunteer. I would be on this panel.
I think that it would be a very fun panel. I also volunteer for you.
Right? I'm like, I'll take minimum wage. You don't have to pay me anything. Like, just
exactly. I think that would fix a lot. I also think it could, if you get the wrong people, it could make it worse. But I think that they could vet, and I think it'd be fun and good. Yeah. But I think that there's a lot that Survivor can and should change. But again, we're talking about a show that's been on TV since 2000, and we're still talking about it, podcasting about it, making content about it. They're doing something right. And they're also doing a lot of stuff wrong, but they're doing something right to kind of keep us wanting more.
Well, and sometimes doing things wrong is what people want to talk about, right? Everyone's got an opinion, and that's, again, attention is the commodity, and
exactly.
But it's still fun to watch, and it still grabs the attention, even in a good way or a bad way. Like, in some ways, I think it's its own living, breathing thing, and I kind of love that about it.
Me too. It's a show that no one hates Survivor like a Survivor fan, but also no one loves Survivor like a Survivor fan. It is truly this fandom is so kind of crazy with so many different people and different perspectives. And I love it, and I hate it, and everything in between.
I mean, I turned my family's like white elephant game over Christmas into a Survivor auction instead. So
that's so fun. That Ryan and I have been wanting to do that. His family will go on vacation, not every year, but often, and it's like 20, 30 people at a beach, at a beach house or whatever. And we all really want to do like an auction when we go to one of these, because we think it would be so much fun. And nobody really watches Survivor in the family except for us.
Same. So, like, they did not understand any of the things, but we had advantages. We had like, this gift is covered. You don't know what it is. And once you buy this gift, you can swap it for this gift, but this is like coal or something. It was very, very thematic. But it was a really good time. I highly recommend it.
That's so awesome. I love that so much. Oh my gosh, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast and chatting with me, talking about Survivor. I love it so much. For people who want to learn more about what you do and follow you, where is the best place that people can do that?
Yeah, the best place is either TikTok or Instagram. You can find me at Intimacy Coordinator on TikTok. With Instagram, I've got like an underscore after each of the words. But also if you just type in Intimacy Coordinator, you'll probably see my face pop up. And you can find me, I run a company that trains intimacy coordinators, and that's called IDC Professionals, which again, if you go to any of my stuff, it'll be linked there as well. So if you're interested in learning more about how to become an intimacy professional, what it looks like to break into the entertainment industry, is this even a viable job? If you want to work in the entertainment industry and you're interested in intimacy and consent, come check us out. We do a lot. We help people build careers. So IDC professionals or intimacy coordinator. And Fitness Adventure. Go play Fitness Adventure, which is like a D&D dice-based motivation game that helps you do the things that you don't like to do. So it's a complete side project, but it is a blast and a half.
It's so fun. I love it. I love it.
Oh
my gosh. Well, thank you again so much. And thank you everybody for listening to this episode of Surviving the Fandom. I will have some more episodes coming out before season 50. As always, make sure to watch our draft episode that's going to be happening tomorrow night. I honestly can't remember what we're drafting, but it's going to be the whole squad there. It's going to be very fun. Tomorrow night, Wednesday, I think at like 8 or 9 p.m. So check that out. It's a blast. And thank you all so much for listening and have a wonderful rest of your day.